Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves, just outside Louisville, Kentucky. I'm gonna throw it to my man, John Webster in Maryland. How you doing today, bruh?
Hey, Gary, another great week in sports. Look forward to talking about it today. We have some great football, both pro and college, some great basketball, some even great WNBA basketball. We're going to really talk about a lot of stuff. But today we got another guest with us, Gary. Who we got with us, man?
Looks like somebody who looks like you, John, just from what I can tell. I mean, he is yours, right?
That's what they say. That's what they say.
All right.
Dante Webster is back with us today. He started the Daily Deuce. He's graced us with his presence
Welcome
today.
To your Daily Deuce. I'm Dante Webster.
And I'm John Webster.
And just like that Daily Deuce every morning, this is the most important part of your day. We're bringing you all the best news in sports. And today we're going to start off with the NFL, its free agency, and of course, the beloved Washington Redskins.
Well,
what you got?
As I've always said about the Redskins, Dante, this is March, and this is their Super Bowl season. This year, they're not winning the Super Bowl in March because they have been very smart in signing free agents, not overpaying, and getting people who are low-key free agents, and I think making good moves. And this is the first time I've seen this in many years.
You're finally going for guys that don't have names. You decided you didn't want the Albert Hainsworths of the world anymore, guys like that. It's always a great decision. Albert Hainsworth will always be a notorious name around here. But, I think it's a good decision for them to go low-key and, just stick to signing guys who you think are going to chip in and all do their part. But you just got to wonder, is it really a Redskins free agency without them making that one big splash?
My goodness, yes, because there's no controversy right now. We're strictly looking at how to make this team.
I think the real thing that I'm trying to figure out is how did Washington finish? Because that was 6 years ago and you were applauding their free agency moves. Was that one of the last Kirk Cousins years? Probably.
Yeah, that will probably be a 500 season or 6-10, one or the other.
But they made those low-key signings that you love. They may have gotten them a division crown. I mean, that works out for you. Also, we have to acknowledge the fact that the team name has also changed since then. So many things are different now. That video has aged poorly in terms of what probably happened in the season and what happened afterwards.
Yes, they are now the Washington football team, the beloved Washington football team. My distinguished partner here, Gary Graves, still is deeply in love with them, which is...
What? No. Packers, man. I told you, I'm a traditionalist. I'm a Packers fan now. I mean, seriously, in no way, shape, or form right now can I root for that organization on any level. I mean, I follow them because that's who I grew up with. But my gosh, man, this team just can't get out of its own daggone way most times. And the thing is, like the Washington football team reminds me of the old Chicago Cubs. The Cubs used to sell the future every year, and they used to push Wrigley Field as that was the biggest attraction because the on-field product was horrible. Of course, now, they're a much better team. That's the difference between them and the Washington football team. They sell hope to these hopeless, delusional fans every single year, and they don't get better in free agency. And that little shiny object that Dan Snyder is always looking at in free agency, to your point, Dante, in that fine opening, they've gotten away from that, but good night, man. I mean, that's still a bad organization from top to bottom.
Hey, Gary, can I ask you a question?
What's up?
And with other future questions that we give you, could you be more specific and tell us how you really feel?
I'm a try, man, but it's like it's not even just a name thing. It's just with that team, it's almost like being a Baltimore Orioles fan. No offense, but I mean, you've got Camden.
How is it?
Everybody says, "Oh, come to Camden Yards," and they sell hope in the farm system. And what happens? You lose 100 games every single year.
Look,
Last time they lost less than 90 games. Dante, you probably know that more than John does because he blocks it out.
Oh
Well-
man. But I mean, the biggest thing about Washington that you just said just did, and the Orioles, it's like, well, I mean, like the Cubs and the Orioles, you said they could at least sell the stadium. You can't really sell FedEx Field to anybody. That's not hope or the future. I went to the stadium down in Houston, and that stadium is beautiful. Washington Stadium is terrible in comparison.
What is that in Houston? Is that Reliant?
NRG, I believe, NRG.
Yeah,
NRG. Okay.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. I mean, football in Texas is a different type of breed in any way, but that stadium, it was lovely. Like I went there and then I came back here and I was like, you know what? I understand why fans don't want to be on that imaginary waiting list anymore. It just ain't working. But what it really, I really didn't mean to include the stadium. I really in there.
how they're always selling hope every year. You know, there's always next year. It's always next year, man. Next year just hasn't come. I mean, last year was an aberration. I mean, in a pandemic, you win a division and go to the playoffs. What was it, 7-9 record or whatever?
7-9, yeah. And I think this year, I looked at what they have left on the schedule. 4-13.
Oh, and I was gonna say I know you meant like you were selling them like metaphorical hope, but I literally just threw the physical building in there because at least, if you're Camden Yards or you're Wrigley Field, you have history and nostalgia on your side to help bring people in and be like, oh, this building, it means so much to the city. FedEx Field is looking like an eyesore at this point. Nobody.
Thank you, Dante. Because when you go to Camden Yards and you go there and you realize there's a team that did have a good stretch of winning. There's a stretch now that we're going through as an organization where we're developing Gary Graves. We are developing the future, and we're going to be back on top of things.
He told me this 5 years ago. He said they get it together. The future's come and gone quite a few times, and you've had number one picks in the draft too. I don't know what to tell you,
Dante. This is not the 5th year of our rebuild. This is a 5-year program.
And I told you, you're supposed to use the Houston Astros as the model for that. They cheated. I mean, if I were you, I'd get started on that part too. Because
he defends the Houston Astros, by the way. He
loves Dusty. It's really awkward. I know he loves Dusty though, so he looks past it. I can't, but he loves Dusty.
Hey, look, there's nothing wrong with having a trash can and a drum in the center field. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it was in the tunnel. It was in the tunnel where they could hear it. They were
picking up trash, Gary. They were picking up trash.
Man, there's a team. If there was a team that I root against more, it's the Houston. I can't find it because the Houston Astros. I can forgive a lot of things in sports, but don't cheat the game. Whether it's with steroids or gambling. Or stealing signs is part of the game, but the way that they did it electronically, and they did it for 2 years, and really for 3 years. I'm so glad the Nationals, beat them at their own game when they finally figured it out and started talking to their gloves and everything else. And we're telling Strasburg and Scherzer that they were telegraphing their pitches. Once they figured it out, the rest is history. Am I right, Dante?
He is right. 2019, beautiful year. My Nats will be good for a little bit, maybe quite a little bit.
The Orioles will be good before the Nats will be good. We can go on record as saying that right now.
Not saying anything. I mean, wait, that may not also be true.
In 2 years, the Orioles will be back in the playoffs.
You're not going to spend money. The Nats will spend money.
Don't have to spend money. We have the best farm system in baseball.
You all drafted a catcher first that likes to play defense and can't hit that well. That's a terrible first overall pick in baseball. You could find
but he's going to help. He's going to help rebuild the pitching staff. He's a very good catcher, and he's very good at working the pitches through.
That's awesome. The guy that you had playing catcher like 2 years ago, me and you went to the game. I don't remember his name. He was hitting like in the zeros, but he was a great defensive player, as you told me. What's the difference?
He's no longer there anymore. He's retired.
Okay, well, I mean, Adley Rushman or whatever his name is. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Adley Rushman, you had it correct.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, if he ain't hitting, I mean, I'm sorry, but you don't draft the catcher first to go out here and be a defensive savant. I mean, you draft him in hopes that he'll be like Pudge Rodriguez or Buster Posey. Is he
There's,
following in
I'm telling you,
footsteps?
Gary and John Pitt, you need to get on the juggernaut called the Orioles. They're coming back. That's all I'm going to tell you.
You've been telling me that you don't have starting pitching for the last 3 years. You haven't picked anybody up.
We're waiting for them to come through the farm system. Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall, they're coming.
Man, I wish I brought popcorn for this because this is fun. This is fun. I just
Hey.
love here. You know, it's and John. Hey, look, I appreciate how much you love the Orioles and everything. I used to be there, but once the team came back to DC, they became my secondary team. They became my American League team. And
Well,
it was to see a once great franchise. They were not. They're only maybe about 5 years away from what their last playoff berth, something like that. When I think they won a division that year.
no, they were the wild card and lost to Toronto in the wild card game.
Okay, but they're not that. They weren't that.
There
far.
is a playoff game. A wild card is a playoff game, Dante. I'm sorry, Gary.
Can I ask you a quick question, Gary? I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you finish your point, but just in general, you know how they have the play-in game every year in baseball? Do you consider those teams playoff teams? Because I don't consider them playoff teams because it's not even called the playoffs. It's called the play-in. If I'm not
It's a
mistaken.
play-in game. It's Dayton in baseball. It's Dayton, Ohio in baseball. That's what it is. Yeah, and if you want to call it a playoff, make it a 3-game series or something.
Thank you. Okay, I agree with that. Otherwise, it's just one extra. It's game 163, right?
Yeah.
It's sudden death baseball.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, the last time sudden death, well, I won't say the last time, but when sudden death really mattered to me was 1978, when it was the Yankees and
And
Boston.
the Red Sox, yeah.
And there was so much riding on this. I mean, again, there's so much riding on the wild card, I guess you could say, but that had to be the most compelling, most exciting single game that I can recall in my lifetime, because I remember going through student union at Maryland, and I was getting ready to leave campus, and I'm telling you, there were so many folks huddled around every TV in the student union building watching that game, because there are a lot of New Jersey, people, folks from Boston, stuff like that, going to school there. But I'm telling you, I've never seen that kind of excitement in the game. And then I remember I was listening to it driving home and hearing the Bucky Dent home run on the radio, and I mean, seriously, that gave me chills, and I had no vested interest in either one. I mean, I was kind of a Yankee follower because of Reggie, but that's when a game like that matters. That does not matter as much as it does now, because again, it's like a wild card. All it is they make teams think that they're part of the postseason, and it's a sham to me. It's one of many shams, like putting a runner on second base in extra innings now, like 7-inning double headers. It's a sham. Don't put for a sport that needs to play true double headers, I mean, like scheduled double headers, like we used to have when I was younger.
Yeah. Well, I totally get where y'all coming from. You mentioned something earlier, Gary, about tradition. You know what we forgot to do with tradition today, Gary?
Oh yeah, we got to give dap to the man who makes this possible.
John Pitt, hey, how you doing?
What's up, guys? Is that because Dallas beat your beloved Patriots? Are you hating right now? You forgot about me? What happened?
He reminded you he was here. That was tell you, that's how you make your presence known right there. I agree.
Dante, I have a question for you. So what do you think about the Dallas team on Sunday, that game?
It's like we were saying before the show started recording. I wasn't impressed, because you should win. That's a game you should win by at least 10 points. It shouldn't have been in overtime. The coaching has to change. You have to make sure that you can't be a scared coach these days. Scared coaching, it doesn't work anymore. I mean, you're doing the things you need to do. You're passing on first down. You've already changed, and you're going to the modern style of things. And you've gone for it on fourth down. Look, you're trying to win. You can't sit around and make these conservative calls. That's just not going to get the job done. That's my personal belief there. And then you also do have to get your team a lot more disciplined than they were. The penalties yesterday were just shooting ourselves in the foot. Like, we're getting all the way down there.
What was it, 13?
I can't remember, but we gave up over 100 yards in penalties. Like, that's ridiculous. You can't. That's Washington football team stuff right there.
Whoa,
Man,
that's bad.
Rough.
That's bad.
That's rough.
Bad.
I mean, I'm honest. I don't have any problem with them. They're
Yeah.
like Oh, I mean, like the players on the team, the franchise overall, and it's no story. But the team itself seems like nice guys, I guess. Ron Rivera seems like a nice man.
Hey, Dante, look, before we move into our topics, we want to talk about you for a few minutes, man. Tell us a little bit about, you got a podcast yourself. You have one called Hentations. Tell us about it a little bit.
So Hentations is me and 3 of my friends, and so it's a podcast where we literally could talk about just about anything, honestly. 4 guys know each other most of our lives, from middle school going on, and so we just get together and we just talk about anything. Could be do a little bit of sports. We do a lot of talk about life in general, be some popular culture, relationship stuff, just a little bit of everything, honestly. We consider ourselves to be versatile young men, so we like to just get together and have these versatile conversations.
I can say I've checked quite a few of your episodes out, and you all really delve into some serious conversations. Like last week, what was that? Was that last week or the other week when you were talking about the Montel Jordan thing, or what was that topic about?
That was something different. Montel Jordan wasn't as serious as we could have been. We've done some more serious stuff. Montel Jordan was more of a fun thing for us. We've done some serious ones. We talk about the election and
relationships. You've done some stuff about race relations, and you've done a lot of. It's really a great show, and I'm not just saying because you're my son, but I really enjoy it. It's eye opening, and it makes you, as Arsenio Hall used to say, makes you go with some of the thoughts that you have. So let me ask you this: Hentations. How'd you come up with the name Hentations? I already know, but go ahead.
That one. Like Temptations a little bit, but I guess we like Hennessy to drink somewhat. So it's more so of we're smooth. Like Temptations, Hennessy, all that, just smooth. So we're some smooth young gentlemen, and that's what we came up with.
Gary, you and John need to see. They go through a couple minutes, like they put a little advertisement up on Instagram to promote the show, and then it has a little piece at the end where it's somebody holding a glass and it's got Hennessy in it. And what do they say, Dante? It goes down smooth or something? What does it say?
Nah, it doesn't say that. I can't say what we usually say. It's that smooth. That's it.
Yeah, something that smooth. Yeah. Now that's so. I think it's great. Now, I don't know if your mother knows that it's named after Hennessy, so I won't tell her.
Yeah,
so
knows now.
You have. Oh yeah, I'm about to say. I know your volume's probably loud. You probably So you just ratted me out.
Way to go, snitch.
Oh, thank you. Invited me here just to dry snitch.
Look, I'm in my studio with the door closed. She can't hear me.
The studio's upstairs. Not even in the basement. All right, I'll let you all get to your show.
She's downstairs cooking right now, Dante.
Okay, yeah. Then I'll make sure you all get to business so that you're able to get to dinner then.
But all jokes aside, it's a great show, and kudos to you and your friends for what you're doing. I mean, it's Unruly Donnie and Shut Up Cole, and who's the other 2 names? I can't remember the other 2 names.
Clark Kent and They Be Geek and League. He's giving their Instagram names, which is why this is hilarious to me right now. But that's the Hentations. At Hentations on Instagram or Twitter if you're interested in learning more. But yeah, thank you all for having me, and I enjoyed stopping by. Next time I come through, I'm gonna have to stay through for an entire episode and do some more sports talk with you. I'm also Google the 1978 pennant race. Thanks, Gary. That was something I hadn't heard about. And I'll go look up Arsenio Hall clips so I can learn about the reference you made. Gary gave me a highbrow thing to look at. You going down a little lower, but it's all important.
I don't get any love from him. He backs me, but he gives me no love. No love. Hey
John, tell them what Google was for us back in 1978.
It was an encyclopedia.
I was say it's probably Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, or World Book, depending on your budget.
There you go.
All right, let's go get into some of these subjects, man. What do you want to talk about first, Gary?
Well, hey, since we alluded to NFL, we might as well start there. And since we talked about the Dallas Cowboys, I'm gonna put this question out there because we could talk about the games all we want, but who is the number 1 team in the NFL right now? I mean, who do you think is head and shoulders above everybody else? I think you can make a strong case for the Dallas Cowboys. John, get out of here. You can make a strong case for the Dallas Cowboys being the class of the league, even though they had to struggle, to win that game yesterday. But I mean, it's such a packed group between Buffalo and Baltimore and Green Bay and Tampa Bay. It's probably a team that I'm missing out here. I guess I would have had Kansas City. Well, excuse me, not Kansas City. San Diego in that group before they lost yesterday. But I mean, I don't know if you have to pick a favorite right now, but Dallas sure does look good. And I don't even think Dallas has necessarily played their best game yet. John Pitt, would you agree? Oh, John, what happened to you?
Sorry, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I think the best is yet to come for Dallas. And again, as much as it pains me as someone who grew up as a fan of the Washington football team and still trying to understand how so many DC citizens became Dallas Cowboy fans, but that's another show. But hey, you got to recognize what they are and have respect. See, because I covered Dak Prescott in college. And when they drafted him, and I just thought, my gosh, that was almost like them drafting Troy Aikman back in the day. I mean, it was just a perfect pick for a team that really needed a quarterback that they'd have for, 9 to 12 years or something like that. I don't know, health-wise, if he's up for that, but in much the same way like Tony Romo became kind of a quarterback for several years. I think Dak Prescott is that guy, and I think we're really seeing everything he's capable of now that he's healthy.
Well, I think right now, Dallas is definitely one of the better teams in the league, but you forgot one team, and you're not by yourself on this. A lot of people are forgetting about them, and that is Arizona Cardinals.
Oh man,
I guess the question is with Arizona, are they real? That's the question. I think, I don't know how John and Dante feel about it. I think Dallas, if Dallas played Tampa Brady again, I think Dallas would beat them. I think Dallas will beat them. I really do. I think, they beat New England yesterday. Everybody knows how I feel about New England. And New England is still a year or two away. But New England played them tough. I think Dallas is a complete team again. I have not seen them have the running and passing with the triplets in a long time. They have CC or CD Lamb, the Lamb kid. He stretches the field out. Amari Cooper can go underneath. In the backfield, Ezekiel Elliott seems like he's going back to what he used to be. The kid Pollard gives him a nice different speed. Dak Prescott is coming. You would not even think he dislocated his ankle or broke his ankle, looking at how he's playing now. He's great. And that's why I say I really think if they play Tampa again, I think they would beat them. Even if they played at Tampa again, I think they would beat them. I guess the question I would ask everybody, is Arizona for real?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're for real, but I still don't think that they are the best team in football right now, top to bottom, because everything that you mentioned about the Cowboys, I agree with. The most important thing is they improved that defense. I mean, because that was always going to be the question. I mean, last year it was just brutal to watch them last year with that defense, and it's much better, and that helps a whole lot.
And really,
the play calling, because when you realize you got Ezekiel Elliott and you've got all those receivers, and now you're utilizing them the way that you're supposed to.
Now, Dante and Pitt would know better than me. I think that's pretty much the same defense from last season. Am I right or wrong?
I mean, you made a big change by adding in Micah Parsons, and you let go of Jalen Smith, which means you really trust the rookie a lot by letting go of like a pretty reliable linebacker over the past couple of years. So it has some changes, but for the most part, you're right. It mostly did stay the same. And honestly, they've been operating with less because you chose to cut Smith and you lost to Marcus Lawrence after I think the first game of the year. So you've been going without your top pass rusher for the past 5 weeks or so.
And the reason I say that is because I give a lot of credit to Dan Quinn, because I think he is one heck of a defensive coach. I think he is unbelievable. I mean, last year, Dallas, I think it was Mike Nolan, and Mike Nolan has struggled everywhere he has been as a defensive coordinator. I remember when he was the defensive coordinator here with Washington, and the owner, which was really crass on his part, he left some vanilla ice cream on Mike Nolan's desk to say that his defense was very vanilla and very soft. It was true, but I thought that was very crass for him to do that. But Nolan is not, in my opinion, a really great defensive coordinator. I think Dan Quinn is absolutely one of the best defensive coordinators in football.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. And I think, Dante was making a point about personnel, and that's, he made my point for me that, it's the same defense, but you found a way to put different personnel in there to execute it. And I don't even know, again, I haven't seen I really haven't tracked all the changes that they made personnel wise. I thought Jalen Smith releasing him, I thought that was a risk at first, but it's panned out. I mean, it's made sense. And I mean, I wasn't the only one that was scratching my head. It's like, woo, that's a big one, but it worked out.
Yeah.
That's
well,
I thought it was definitely an interesting move to make mid-season. I thought they were going to do that. They do it before the season started, so you could figure out how to retool it and get Micah Parsons up to speed. But they let him go, and it's been working out. But I will throw in, no, we don't want to discredit the Cardinals. They're 6-0 for a reason, and they did put a serious hurting on the Rams.
Yeah.
When they played them. That's pretty big, and a lot of people think the Rams are the Super Bowl contender within that division. So that is like a huge step forward. And as long as Kyler Murray stays healthy and they don't like overrun him, they got a chance of being good. His health has been the main thing that's thrown them off the last couple of years. So as long as they can keep him upright and make it so that his job is mainly throwing the ball, and they have great targets for him to throw the ball to, the sky could be the limit for them. This could probably save Cliff Kingsbury's job.
Yeah.
They're tough.
And I think that's always been the biggest question with Arizona. I mean, I've always thought that they were a great potential team, even before Kyler Murray. It's like, you look at, say, some of the individual pieces that they have, and you figure that's the kind of team that can at least make you competitive. Now they've got a quarterback. The only thing about it is, again, it's like you said, about his health. They can keep him upright because of his size. Sometimes I shudder when he runs because I'm like, oh man, he could one good blast, puts him out, and the whole season could go downhill after that. It's much the same thing with a lot of mobile quarterbacks, and I think that's why Lamar Jackson doesn't get the credit that he deserves, because everybody still wants to invoke Michael Vick's name, and I said, well, Michael Vick took hits. I mean, it's just they started to pile up after a while. And of course, he was older and taking those hits. But I don't think you fault any quarterback that can extend the play either with their feet or do those check downs. That's what Kyler Murray is doing. But still, you're talking about a little bit of an undersized quarterback in a big man's league, and you better put that protection in front of him, keep that protection in front of him if you want to win some games. And so far, so good.
And we're in agreement, Baltimore and Buffalo are the best teams in the AFC?
Baltimore.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, by far. Buffalo,
I was going to say Buffalo is probably
like scary good. I don't even think, as good as they've been, that's another team that's like, man, I don't think they've had that definitive statement game yet. I mean, they've had some good victories, but they still need that one where they say we are the class of this league right now.
It wasn't when they blasted Washington by about 20, 30 points. That seemed like a statement right there.
The four of us could blast Washington by 34 points.
And don't forget this week this week we got a big one. Cincinnati's coming to Baltimore this week. I think they're both 5-1.
Okay.
So
yeah,
or-
Cincinnati
or 4-2 or something.
Yeah.
Something. No, it might be 4-1.
Cincinnati only lost once. I don't know.
So they're playing for first place. They're playing for first place.
I really believe that's a 4-5-1 in name alone. I'm sorry. I'll get excited if they can beat the Ravens out by end. Otherwise, it's just great scheduling, like how the Panthers made all those win now moves after going 3-0 and they regret it. But that's for another time.
Yeah, and see, I live out here in Bengal country, and it's still kind of a show it to me. If they can beat Baltimore, I think there'll be a lot more believers. I mean, beating Pittsburgh, it's not, it doesn't have the same cachet as it did 2 or 3 years ago.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let's move down a level of NCAA, and there's a lot to unpack here. Some of it on the field, some of it off the field. I guess the biggest thing, let's talk about Ed Ogeron agreeing to not be coached next year. You can call it an agreement. I call it a firing. And I was calling it a potential firing when I covered Kentucky beating them by 3 touchdowns. I mean, in the press box, it was just like, how does he survive this? I mean, there were fire Ed Ogeron pages formed before halftime. I mean, brand new pages on Twitter before halftime. And it happened. Now, in his case, it's not just the on-field record. I mean, we're starting to see dribs and drabs of information about Title IX violations, personal conduct issues, and everything else. But I still think it's kind of a risk to fire a coach mid-season when you still have half a season to salvage it. He's going to stay on, but is this going to be the same team? I mean, do they rally behind him and send him out happily, or do they go in a tank?
I mean, let's start with this. Go Tigers can only get you but so far in life. It'll get you half the way, but it won't get you all the way. But just generally speaking, I'm honestly not sure. Honestly, from the stuff that I'm reading and hearing, it seems like even the players may not mind him being gone because he became a distraction. Like, it's one thing where if you're like, if you're just losing games and you just seem like you're inept at your job, and your players not inept, but like, you're just losing games, and sometimes it's for various reasons, and the players can like rally around you. Like when Texas made the choice to get rid of
Tom Herman.
I wasn't even gonna go with him. Charlie Strong. That's what I was.
Charlie Strong. Oh yeah.
Made the choice to get rid of Charlie Strong. The players still like Charlie Strong, but it was just that Charlie Strong couldn't win in Texas. It just was what it was, or maybe he wasn't winning at that time, but the players still rally around it. I mean, outside of the guys that were on that 2020 title team, I'm not sure that, there's going to be too many people that'll be upset or he ruffled. I mean, that'll be like, oh, man, they got rid of Coach O. If you're becoming a distraction to the guys in the locker room, at that point, fine, maybe you did serve as a mentor or a role model to them, but they ain't going to be so sad to watch you leave. And I mean, even if we look at how this has gone since he got fired, we haven't heard a lot of stories about, the players decided they didn't want to practice today because Coach O was gone. It was business as usual. I think they probably knew it was coming too. They're not stupid. They could read the writing on the wall if, like, we're underachieving. We haven't been good since the national championship year. Looks like a blip now. It looks like the outlier rather than what you were supposed to come. Because when you signed him for this long extension, you're planning on becoming the next SEC powerhouse. Like, you're basically banking on the fact that you're about to be the next Alabama, Florida from back in the earlier 2000s, or even, Clemson, if you want to look outside the conference, and he just didn't do it. So, I mean, is it going to be like, it may, this season may just be lost. They may just give up on a few more games now, but I mean, in the long run, I don't think it'll have too much of an effect. I mean, the best job in the country is now open, and it's LSU. They'll get a better coach in there, most likely.
Yeah. I think, the problem with LSU, and everything that you were saying about him signing a long-term deal. I think the one thing that Orgeron didn't plan well for, and maybe this is where he lost the team, is that you lost all those players after the title team to the NFL, including Burrow. Then you lost a bunch of assistant coaches, who went to jobs. You should have gone out and gotten the best of the best, even if it meant raiding a certain team over in Tuscaloosa. or something for, for an assistant. He did not replenish the cupboard there. And when you're LSU and you can just go out and just say LSU and can get at least some of the top talent, he didn't do that. And I mean, injuries are one thing, but he just did not plan for the aftermath that Alabama was going to get better. Ole Miss was going to get better. And I'm talking about in that division. I mean, I was going to say Mississippi State, but they are what they are right now. And Leach, I think he might be the next one on the hot seat after 2 seasons. If they lose to Kentucky, maybe not because they're ranked. But I'll tell you right now, if they are another 3 or 4 win team, I think he's as good as gone too, because he's lost a lot of players. He lost a lot of players his first year because I don't think if you're a running back, you don't have a place there. And with LSU, I think with Orgeron, it's just something with that he lost in that team. I don't want to say that they quit against Kentucky, but much like Florida, they were never really in that game. I mean, almost from the start, they just did not, and that says a lot about coaching and morale.
Well, y'all, both of you make very interesting points. Couple things I'll say. Dante, you mentioned that LSU, it definitely is one of the best jobs in the country. I will not disagree with you on it, but don't forget about that conference over there on the West Coast. That USC job is open, and that's a really good job. That's a really good job somebody's going to want. And honestly, I'd rather look at facing Nick Saban and the SEC in the playoffs as opposed to having to go through that gauntlet 8 weeks or 9 weeks every week. So LSU is a good job, but USC is just as good as well. And Mike Leach, he's struggling over at Mississippi State, but I think the one thing that's going to save him, Gary, I don't see, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I don't see Mississippi State having $7 million sitting around to buy him out like they did with Ed Orgeron. LSU is a football factory. They expect to win, and they got a strong alumni that can come up with money to pay a buyout. I just don't know if Mississippi State has that kind of money. And plus, Mississippi State is the kind of program that I've seen over the years. They're happy with 8 wins, 7 wins. They know they're not going to beat Alabama. They're not going to beat Texas A&M. If they beat Mississippi every 2 or 3 years, and what is that, the Egg Bowl, then they're happy. They're really, really happy. I think with Orgeron, it's still amazing to me that he won. What year did he win the championship? Was it 2020?
2019. After
2019.
Yeah. So he's had 17 games, 16, 17 games since that title.
Since that title, and he's out of a job. That shows, and Dante said this to me this weekend, and this is his thought. I'll give him credit for it. It's not what you do in the past, it's what you've done for me lately. And this guy now, after 17 games and a national championship that he brought to this school, it's not good enough what's going on right now. And that's absolutely amazing. And they come up with $7 million to tell you it's not acceptable.
Yeah.
I would say there's 2 guys on this screen with me right now who are alumni for a school in College Park. You probably need to talk to your alumni and see what's going on with your program down the street.
I mean, our program was just happy that we had like a serviceable quarterback for the first 3 weeks of the season. I can't talk about how he's doing right now, but when times were good, they were good with him apparently. Oh, but the one last thought that I'll throw out there on LSU being the best job in the country, at least 2 of the last 3 guys that were there, who was in between Les Miles and Ed Orgeron? Was there an in between?
I don't think there's an in between.
Okay.
I don't think there's an in between. Was there? I don't think there was an in between.
No, I think he took over for Les Miles. Yeah. Yeah. And Les took over for Nick Saban.
Okay. Yep.
Then put it to you like this. That means
all the last 3 coaches have all won national championships there.
That's the best job. That's the best job in the country.
Yeah,
USC, USC,
and yeah, and John, with all due respect to USC or UCLA, and the in the Pac-12, but the problem once Pete Carroll left USC, somehow, I mean, one thing about Pete Carroll, he recognized the talent that was right under his nose, right there, just outside the campus gates. I can never figure out, and you and I had this conversation about football and basketball, that when you were UCLA, when you were in Los Angeles, and you got two sprawling campus, you got so much attraction. I can't figure out why you are not competitive, a contender every year, not only for the Pac-12, but maybe for one of these playoff spots. There's something I can't figure out why they can't get over the hump, and neither school has had it since Pete Carroll left.
I'm telling you all right now. The next
Don't
coach
say Notre Dame.
Well, that's a whole nother story for another day. But the next coach that comes to USC is going to turn it around like it was when Pete Carroll was there. And I think that you two already know who I think the next coach of USC is going to be. You already know who I think it is.
Oh, the guy I don't want. Probably.
No. Yeah. You really think that you think it's going to be Urban Meyer?
Yep.
I'm good on that. I'd rather I'll avoid that one. I'll take someone else.
Who will you take then?
Hey, look,
Who would you take?
Hey, man.
Luke Fickell.
You know what?
Honestly, is that Cincinnati?
Yeah.
That's, right. See, the other thing you got to think about, the other thing you got to think about with these coaches and these jobs, you have to fit the makeup of where you're going. Luke Fickell fits in perfectly in Cincinnati. He's a hard hat kind of guy, has a great program, a great team that just decimated Notre Dame. I don't even want to talk about that anymore, but he does a great job. I don't think a Luke Fickell's style fits into California, LA, USC. I don't see that. Urban Meyer, yes, he fits there. It's just like, I mean, I'm not even trying to be funny. When you look at Notre Dame, it's a certain kind of coach that they're looking for at Notre Dame. It has to fit a mold. Whether it's right or wrong, you have to fit a certain way. And that's what I'm saying to USC. Fickell is very good. I think AP showed him that yesterday, number 2 in the country now. But he does not fit what I say is the mold for USC. Just like I look at Lane Kiffin coaching in Mississippi. That just doesn't add up to me. He's doing a good job, but Lane Kiffin is more of a California guy. USC, UCLA, he would fit there. But I really think the person that's going to go there after this season of a debacle in the NFL is Urban Meyer.
Keep on watching. The Chiefs are going to get too big for their britches. They're going to move on from Eric Bieniemy. He will come on to USC and lead us to great things.
Dante likes Eric Bieniemy.
Oh, I'm a USC guy. Yes, I like USC
football. Okay.
I'm a USC football guy. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to preface that. Sorry about that. That's my college football team. Ain't been much.
Well, see, here. Okay. And the reason why I bring up Luke Fickell is because in sports, the hot name gets bounced around everywhere. I think he might end up being more for LSU than USC. But if you're talking about available coaches, coaches who everybody's looking for to take that next step, I think Luke Fickell is that kind of guy. And everybody that I've talked to says, he could be the kind of fit at USC in terms of really building a grassroots program. I mean, let's just look at what he's done at UC. And I'm saying this only as a guy, in an area where, you hear about UC a lot. But in his time there, they went from being a program in a group of 5 conference to now going to a Power 5 conference. Cincinnati has the money to keep him there, but LSU and USC have the money to lure him there.
The lights are brighter and hotter in the SEC and
Of
even
course.
in
Yeah.
the Pac-12. And I just don't think maybe LSU, but I don't. It's a different kind of animal in USC. It's a different kind of animal in the Pac-12, and it's a different way you gotta roll with it. And I just don't think he's a hard hat kind of coach, which I'm not saying is anything is wrong with that. I'm not knocking that, but I don't think he is the answer at USC. He'd be more of an answer. I could see him at LSU. I could see him there, but not USC.
But his name is going to trust.
Oh, it's coming up now.
It's going to get bounced around.
Now, of course, what could happen? Urban Meyer could stay around for 2 more years at Jacksonville for another year. He'd be there 2 years, and maybe another great job would open up in 2 years for him to be a coach in college.
Yeah, you know, Nick Saban might get tired. You're right. Yeah. Alabama could open up. You just never know.
That's actually funny. Yeah.
Well,
Hey guys, let's move on to Major League Baseball while we got time, because that's just as compelling as well. Okay, where to start? I guess let's go with the obvious. The Atlanta Braves have pulled off 2 walk-off victories over the 118 win LA Dodgers. Okay, it may be 109, 110 wins, but I'm still trying to figure out how the team with the worst record remaining in the playoffs does that. And is it fool's gold, or do we see that really a team that's capable of winning a World Series?
go ahead, Dante. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm about to say my answer will probably be shorter than yours. You know, I'm not as up on baseball, but not that I don't like it. But I was gonna say, when you get past that play-in game, baseball to me is bedlam. Anybody that gets into that party has a chance at winning it if you could just catch a hot streak and just ride it out. And I thought the same thing about the Braves wouldn't be able to stand a chance because their record is so bad and they play in the NL East, and that wasn't a good division this year. It was a terrible division. The Nats were in it for a long time as a terrible team. They couldn't be ruled out for a while. So I just think that it's one of those things where if you're in baseball, you can make anything happen. Now, do I think that there will be some correction coming? Possibly. I still think the Dodgers will win the series, but honestly, you just can't rule it out. Once in baseball, if you're in the playoffs, you're alive. You have a shot.
Well, let me say this, and I agree with Dante. It's bedlam. Anything can happen. But this reminds me, Gary, Dante's too young to remember this, but this reminds me of 1988. Remember 1988, Gary?
Yeah. I know you'd rather forget it, but yeah, the Oral Hershiser year with the Dodgers. Yeah.
And
Kirk Gibson year. Yeah,
that team was like the Braves are right now. They were 80, maybe a 90 win team. The kick butt team back then were the New York Mets. Nobody thought the Mets could be beaten. The Dodgers beat the Mets, and then they went to the World Series and beat a powerful Oakland A's team that had McGuire, Canseco, Dave Stewart, you name it. And this is what I see with Atlanta. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but Atlanta seems to have things aligned the way they want it. They're getting things done. LA started off last night 2-0. They got a good start on them in the first inning, and slowly but surely Atlanta walked them down, tied it up 2-2, and then you get to the 9th inning. It's fool's gold in the 9th inning. And what does Atlanta have to lose? They're a 90-win team. Nobody thought they were going to be here this long. Nobody even expecting to beat Milwaukee. So what happened? They have nothing to lose playing this 109, 110 win team. They may beat the Dodgers. I didn't think it would happen, but they may beat the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well, when you get to this point in the season, especially if you're the Braves and you're playing with house money, I think that game really took a turn when they took Scherzer out. He said afterward he had a dead arm. Going to Urias is opposed at that point, the midpoint of the game, when normally you'd be turning it over to your bullpen, like Trinan, and the closer who gave up the game-winning hit. But here's the thing about that: it wasn't so much about removing Scherzer that was the big thing. I think the problem was having a dead arm goes back to the risk in using him as the closeout guy against the Giants, because he threw his what off to win that game for the Dodgers. At what cost? Getting down the line, because you're only talking about maybe 3 or 4 days between a game 5 and then a game 2 of the of the NLCS or something, and I mean it just looked obvious he was just not the same. Everybody says, well, no, Max Scherzer is a competitor, which we know in DC, he is, but there's just a point where him being a competitor, you got to be smart about how you use him. I think that, he won that series for him, but I really started to wonder at what cost, because if he's throwing, 90 to 94 miles an hour, in a clinching game like that, it's gonna hurt him at some point, especially if he's got to go 4 or 5 innings in his next start.
Yeah, and didn't they bring in Urias last night? Yeah,
they brought him in. Yeah, they brought in another starter when they could have been the bullpen.
Yeah, and the bullpen's not good. It's shaky.
No, that bullpen has been pretty much lights out. Trinan, who couldn't get any of us out when he was in Washington, goes out there, in a trade, and all of a sudden, he's kind of a lights out guy.
Yeah, but bringing Urias in my opinion, is a panic move by Dave Roberts.
And that's not like him either.
Yeah,
that's the thing that surprised me.
Yeah, that's a panic move. You're bringing in one of your best. That's your ace, really. Didn't he win 20 games this year? You're bringing your ace in the second game of the championship series. It's not the 7th game; it's the second game in the 4th or 5th inning. That's a panic move, and that's not a good look for the Dodgers as a team. And like I said, the Atlanta Braves could maybe make a move on it if they're playing with, was it house money?
House money.
Yeah.
And the thing too about the Braves, that they got healthy at the right time. They started to figure out their rotation at the right time. I mean, it's like all of these things are falling in the line right time. And your analogy to the '88 Dodgers was a great one. It's just that they're getting everything that they probably needed early in the season. They're getting it in the right time. And they knew it didn't take that much to win that division because, we knew that the Mets were going to fade. The Phillies found a way to fade, in that final week of the season. And, you just had to be the survivor. And I think what Dante said it too, it becomes bedlam once you win that playing game. But that's right. They, as a division winner, they didn't have to do that. I was thinking about the Dodgers. The Dodgers can create some bedlam as well. But right now, I mean, the Braves, they've got confidence. They don't know now when they're going to see Scherzer or Urias down the line. So, I mean, I think they can continue to play their game, really put the onus on the Dodgers. The Dodgers pretty much have to run the table going back out to LA.
Yeah. So what you think about the American League?
Man, that's right. We haven't even talked about that. I'm just going to say this quick and then we'll move on to NBA. I think if that series goes back to Houston, I'd be very, very surprised, because when you hit back-to-back grand slams in Houston, that place is a bandbox, but it's still it's hard to figure out some of those dimensions there. But once you figure them out, and we're not talking about, say, just barely make it over the fence. We're talking about a couple of real moonshots. If that ball isn't out there in left field, that ball is going over that train and out of the park.
Well,
and Houston has got to figure out now how to play Fenway Park for 3 straight games. That's tough.
It's tough. They lost a lot of momentum. McCullers isn't pitching this series as well. He's sitting down. But you guys know I'm still with Dusty. I'm still with the Houston Astros. I still think they'll find a way to pull it out. They play tonight. I think they'll lose tonight, but I think the series will go back to Houston, and I think Houston gets it in 7.
Yeah, well, again, tonight might be the pivotal game in that. because again, even if they lose, it's how much you lose by, because Boston, after that game one, they were sore. I thought that was the kind of game that they could easily lose game two, because I'm telling you, I saw a team that was quote unquote pissed about how because there was a lot of trash talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things about Houston. Houston talks a lot of trash, and they're still, and they've got a chip on their shoulders still about, how fans think about them from the cheating scandal.
Well, I don't think they are really talking trash, Gary, so much as they are just expressing their enthusiasm for playing baseball.
What's this? What is that? What is that? You hit a home run,
I just think it's a signal that the third base coach is giving, or the first base coach is giving, to steal the base.
After you hit a home run?
Dante, come get your boy.
There was no stealing of the base and ball. He did after he hit a home run.
That's what I'm saying. Can Kim bring you some food or something, John?
I just think, and I know a lot of people have a problem with Houston and what happened 2 or 3 years ago, and I get it and I respect it, but they paid their penance for what has been considered a wrongdoing, and we're all trying to move. We're all trying to move forward and just see a good series. I mean,
you are such a homer for them. You're not even a fan.
I know.
They didn't pay anything.
They haven't paid any penance. Nobody.
The manager and the general manager, they lost their jobs behind this.
Yeah, but there were no player suspensions. I mean, the manager wasn't banging the daggone trash can. It was the players. Come on.
No, it wasn't a player. It was really, you don't know who was banging the trash can, Gary. Really?
Isn't the manager of the Red Sox the old managers from the
Yes, he was part. He served a year suspension and went back to Boston.
Alex Cora, right? That's him.
Alex Cora. Yes, he was the third base coach in the dugout, allegedly giving signals.
He fell forward. You know what? Penance.
I know. See, let's just call. Okay, we're gonna move on to NBA, but I'm gonna say this last thing. ALCS stands for American League Cheater Series. That's all that is, and I'm done.
Well, I just will continue to watch and hope for a great series with two very good teams that are evenly matched, and trash can or no trash can, no signal or whatever, none of this. We just want to see some good baseball.
You know how sad it has to be to make America cheer for the Dodgers? Basically, all of America is cheering for the Dodgers because they don't want the other teams to win. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, TV does not want the Atlanta Braves because that's no money. TV needs the Dodgers. TV needs the Dodgers. You know what TV really wants right now? And let's be honest. They want the Dodgers and Houston one more time because of what you and Dante are talking about, the scandal. And if it happened, if they play it again, what happens if the Dodgers lose again? Well, they just lose again.
Houston cheated somehow.
And that's the way it should be, instead of having a cloud over it. Anyway, NBA cranks up. John, I'm gonna defer to you on this one because since you're such a NBA expert, the obvious question: can Milwaukee do it again? Second obvious question: who's going to challenge them in the East? And the third obvious question: who comes out of the West this time?
All right. First question: can Milwaukee do it again? The answer is no. They will not repeat. The challenge in the East will be the Nets. And I think Boston will be improved this year as well. And I think Philadelphia will fool some people and will be even better this year. I know one person on this set will vehemently disagree with the next thing I'm going to say, but I think Doc Rivers is a very good coach and will help Philadelphia become a very good team and get through this rough scenario that they're going through right now. And out West, also know there's somebody on this set that is a very dear Lakers fan. I'm just going to say it now. The Lakers are not going to win the championship. They will be a 55 or a 60 game winner. But the thing that people have to realize, yes, you have Westbrook, You have LeBron James, you have Carmelo Anthony, you have Anthony Davis, you have Ray John Rondo. You have all great players. And they are all in like their 10th or 11th year in the league. I think they'll be a great team during the regular season. How they do in the playoffs, I don't know, because will they get tired? Will there be nagging injuries? What will happen? We'll see. I'll say this. Golden State will be vastly improved. I don't think they'll be improved enough to get to the championship. Denver is going to be even better again next year. I think a lot of people think Phoenix did stuff with smoke and mirrors. I don't know. They may be even better again. I think the class of the West in the regular season will be the Lakers, but I don't think they win the whole thing. I think Milwaukee is a very good team. I think tomorrow night they open up against New Jersey, don't they, Dante?
Brooklyn, but yes.
But I'm sorry, Brooklyn. I'm sorry, with Brooklyn. They'll go to Brooklyn. And that's a story within itself. We talked about that last week. We're not going to go through that again, but I think without Irving, they are still a very good team. They are a very good team with what's the guy's name? I just got brain locked. Kevin Durant and James Harden. Yeah, I still think they're a very good team without Irving. And we'll go from there. And I don't know what Kyrie Irving is going to do or not do. That's totally up to him. As I said last week, I respect whichever decision he wants to make. But we'll see what happens. And don't sleep on my Boston Celtics. I think they'll be very, very much improved. And I still think Philadelphia will be tough as well.
Oh, yeah, in case you didn't.
Your take on this. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine. In case you didn't know, I'm the guy that likes the Lakers and doesn't think Doc Rivers is that good of a coach. But hey, those are just my own personal opinions. I could be wrong. Doc Rivers is one coach of the year like twice, I think. But, hey, that's a good average. Hey, I think it really helps the Lakers. But in the meantime, I'm going. I agree with you. I agree with like one thing you said. I agree with. The Lakers probably aren't winning a championship. I can pretty much agree with that. Too old. You lowballed it. Our guys are in their 19th and 20th year or whatever. Like LeBron's played 19 years. Like, I mean, that's kind of, and LeBron's still great, but I mean, like we're relying on year 19 Carmelo to play major minutes. I'm not too happy about that myself. Not a Russell Westbrook. I'm not a Westbrook. I don't hate the guy or dislike him or anything like that. Just playing style doesn't really work that well with LeBron and what we have. But that's just my opinion. But I will say that me and him are on different sides of Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn wins championship this year with or without Kyrie Irving. It doesn't matter. They still have Kevin Durant and James Harden. You're not beating that. I think if they have Kyrie Irving, it's just icing on the cake, and they will just cakewalk through everything.
If they have all three of them, and I've told you this before at the dinner table, when you come over to eat with us, if they have all three of them, they lose. Two of them, they win.
And I told you before, basketball has changed. They make it work. Like the 6'8" guy that was averaging like 30 points a game wants to play point guard with them. Kyrie Irving gets to play off ball. He doesn't even have to act like he's a point guard anymore. He can just be what he wants.
Durant Harden, or Durant Irving win a whole thing. And I think it's more Durant Harden win a whole thing.
Durant, Harden, and Irving will win. I just think they'll win it. Their team is built very well. Like everybody talks about the Lakers building this super team. Nobody talks about the fact that if you look on Brooklyn's bench, like Brooklyn has Joe, not on the bench. Brooklyn still starts Joe Harris. They have Blake Griffin. They have Paul Millsap, who's actually still a pretty decent player. They probably have the steal of the NBA draft and Cam Thomas from what I've seen in summer league and from preseason. Probably got the steal of the draft there. They didn't just build a team with like 3 All-Stars. They built a team with 3 All-Stars and cap space, and they were able to still have draft picks. And this is after they made the hard trade. They're still winning. And if they need to, they could get rid of Kyrie Irving to bring in somebody else if they really wanted to. Not saying that's what I would do, but I wouldn't rule it out either. They still have room to make, they'll still be able to work the buyout market. So they can still make improvements on the fringes. I just don't think you're beating them. And I like Milwaukee a lot more. I like the story of Giannis. They're probably not going back to back. And yes, I'm one of those people that thought the Suns were smoke and mirrors. They would have lost to the Lakers in that first round series if AD doesn't go down. Lakers would have won at 6. Just saying.
Wow.
It's not a secret. When AD went down, we were done. AD was killing them. It's just facts. It's okay. But
Monty Williams would have made the necessary adjustments, so he would have shut down Davis.
Why do you have to keep making me tear down these black coaches? I don't want to do that. He didn't make these adjustments in the finals. So I mean, what do you want me to say? You keep making me keep these men down. They are good men. Monty Williams is a great guy. He's a good coach too. He didn't make adjustments then though. So I'm just saying. But anyway.
But
The comments made on the Daily Deuce are not necessarily the opinions of all the people on the Daily Deuce.
Well, why are we doing this then? No.
Man, I like Monty Williams, man. You go tell Phoenix to go break up a better roster than like last year. He had to play Frank the Tank in the playoffs. Come on, man. You gonna tell me? I mean, that's not his fault, but come on. They don't really still have a great backup center either. JaVale McGee is better than Frank Kaminsky, but that's marginal.
But Kaminsky should have been playing a 4, not a 5.
What basketball are you watching? You can't put him out there and then expect a bigger guy to play with him. That's just no movement at all. That's too slow.
Hey,
it's not the way it works anymore.
you
This
know,
ain't Ralph Sampson and Kevin McKinnon. Is it Ralph? Who Ralph Sampson played with? Ralph Sampson.
Akeem.
Yeah, this ain't Ralph Sampson and Akeem the Dreams NBA anymore. I'm sorry, you can't put two skyscrapers out there if they aren't supremely skilled and expect it to work like that. I mean, you know, it's if you have Jokic and Bol, maybe, but that's really a stretch there too. In all honesty, I'm sorry, I can go on a tangent about basketball, but yeah, you know, I'm not buying into Phoenix. Brooklyn's probably going to win this year. Lakers will probably end up breaking my heart or breaking their bodies, one or the other.
Well, hey, I'm going to use that as a segue into our closing and WNBA. Chicago Sky won their first title yesterday.
Congratulations to him. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, and really just absolutely dominated a very good Phoenix team.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a surprise to you guys? It wasn't a surprise to me because of Candace Parker. But what she got out of that team, their depth really came through in that series. I thought if you really watched it.
I mean, not a total surprise because of the player that Candace Parker is. But then when you look at Phoenix and they had Griner and they got Diane Taurasi, that's a good team. But it's not a total surprise because Candace Parker she is still one of the best in the league, and she can will a team to where they need to get to.
I'll be honest, it was a surprise to me because of how they had to get there. They had to play in like the play-in game just to even get into the whole dance in the first place. And in order to win the finals, they had to go through the number 1 seed, which was the Connecticut Sun.
Mm-hmm.
The WNBA MVP and a fellow Riverdale Baptist alumni, Jonquel Jones. So they did have to beat.
When are we getting into free advertising? When do we start doing free advertising?
I'm just saying, hey, I don't know how much longer my school will be around, but in the meantime, yeah, you know, you had to give out to, you know, you had to get through a lot to get there, and I mean both teams honestly, because I think didn't the Mercury beat the Aces? Aces are also a very good team. Like I mean, honestly, I was surprised who got there because like the Aces had the better. I think the Aces are probably my favorite team. I like the squad they have. I like their players. So, it was a surprise who got there, and I was surprised that they managed to honestly just win the whole thing. Like it was very competitive. Kudos to Candace Parker for going home and bringing a championship back to Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, folks, hey, it's been a lot of fun. Dante, man, it's been a pleasure having you on. I mean, I felt like I was sitting at your dinner table because I mean, I could just see you all going at this like every night or every Sunday at least. So, hey, I appreciate your insight, man. It's always good talking with you. Please come back. Please come back.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed being here with you all. You're lucky that we didn't have as much time on the basketball. That could have really got me on a run right there. You got me on baseball. I could do baseball, but I didn't read my stats before I came in here today. Honestly, this is where I learned that the Dodgers are down 0-2. I picked the Dodgers to win the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, as always, we thank our wonderful producer, John Pitt. And folks, tell your friends, tell your family, please support this podcast. We really do appreciate it because, you know, I mean, this doesn't feel like a show. It feels like, again, like we're sitting around a table talking stuff and watching John, you know, eat off his platter while we eat off plates.
Well, don't say anything, Dante. But anyway, hey, this has been great. Hey, Dante, thank you so much for coming on today. It really means a lot to everybody. It definitely means a lot to me. Yeah, you really do a good job with this stuff, and I'm just happy as a pig in slop that you had time to come on today. So thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. We all greatly appreciate it.
That was the most country saying I've ever heard in my life. No, it's been no problem. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you.
But look, everybody have a good week this week. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun. Be careful. And above all else, watch some good sports. And we'll be back again next week. Take care.
All right. Take care, everybody. God bless.